Well, thanks for tuning in to India Market Close right here on NDTV Profit. I'm Niraj, Shah, and let's take stock of what the markets are doing. Well, we may have come off a little bit from the highs of the day, but we're still about 0.4% higher. The intraday of the Nifty will be interesting because you will see a bit of a peak and then a bit of a cool off, a little bit of a cool off right here. This is the peak and then a little bit of a cool off, but still about 0.4% higher, so that's not bad. Within the same frame, can we show the Nifty Bank and the Nifty IT2 in the session today? Because the Nifty Bank started off very wobbly in the session today. We're down about 0.4%. Now, it's actually recovered a little bit. So from the lows of the day, there's a bit of a peak that happened, and again, following the same template, but just kind of holding out in the green. IT, which had a fairly torrid yesterday, has just come back in some sense, about 0.5% higher, so that's not too bad either. Bring up the advanced decline ratio first before we get to the heat map and show you what's moving and what's not. So the market breadth, which was very positive for a better part of the trading day, continues to remain that way. Nearly 2:3 in favor of the advances. Let's get the heat map going and show you what's moving and what's not. As you can see, a lot of green, very little red. So that's the first part. But select banks, Reliance Industries in the red. So Kotak and ICICI effectively the ones which are sulking. HDFC Bank is not. Reliance Industries is down about 0.6%. So that little bit of pressure as well. And the gainers, I mean, there are not too many heavyweights save for Larsen, which is really gained. But ONGC, remember, it's not a heavyweight. Up 5% because of oil price uptick. L&T about a couple of percentage points. Adani Ports recovers and up about 2% as well. So that's not doing too badly for itself. And cement continues to be in the limelight. Ultratech at least continues to be in the limelight. Not every cement company is. For example, the TDP linked stocks are not doing well today, but Ultratech continues to do well. And very interestingly, while you saw Nestle being a part of the top 10 list yesterday and in the early morning trade, Nestle no longer there, but Britannia, Tamanna, still trading about 1.5% in the green. So FMCG selectively is kind of present amongst the list of gainers.
I would put that down to maybe Britannia having more of a rural interface compared to a Nestle. That could be one reason.
Possible, yes.
ONGC and BPCL also. Maybe not both because of crude, because opposite reasons, but Naya Mantri ka swagat. So, you have that as a big part of what's playing in the market. I just want to pull up the India VIX for a second because the India VIX is showing an interesting trend before I get to specific stocks. 9.5% down, more than that at 1482. Remember, the volatility index is giving you a sense of the market mood, even if the indices are not moving rapidly. But this is showing you a sense of relief, sense of calm in the markets right now that the ministries have been allocated and ministers have taken charge. Look at it at close to its day's low. 1480 is the day low. India VIX at 1482. So that's an interesting chart. All right, specific stocks. So we talked about Mantri ka swagat. Let's talk about the rail stocks. Rail pack on fire today. Railtel, Jupiter, Titagarh. There's a whole Ircon. Let me add Ircon to that list as well. Railtel over 10% up. Ircon 8.5% up. Titagarh relatively not doing that great, but Jupiter, like we showed, is fantastic. More policy-related impact, if I had to talk about, Railtel 10% up and Jupiter about 6.5% up. If I had to talk about policy impact, the focus on housing stocks continues to rev up. A certain category of companies, we're showing you Aavas Finance and Hutco, but the real star of the day, I would say, is an NBCC. And look at what NBCC has been doing all day today. Home First as well has been doing well, but NBCC over 10% up. Home First about 7.5% up this afternoon. Block deal impact is something that we have seen as well. So if I were to add your Interglobe, Honasa, IRB Infra, all of them down in the red all through the day, but then I'll put that down to stake sales from various entities rather than anything fundamentally really in that story. Niraj talked about the TDP stocks which had been buzzing and now seeing a sell-off. Definitely Amara Raja down 2.5%, Heritage Food 5%, Ramco Cement 2%. I don't know if you can pull up KCP, but KCP also getting hit quite badly today in trade. And this was bound to happen because remember that there was no core fundamental reason for them to run up the way they had been. And perhaps some of it was in anticipation of seeing what portfolios would be given. KCP down about 6.5%. One has come through that the major portfolio the TDP has is civil aviation, maybe some calm over there or a pullback, whichever way you want to see it. Transform and Rectify is just the other one that I wanted to talk about. They're raising 500 crores. Their QIP is up. That stock 5% up as well. So a lot of interesting individual stories in the market this afternoon. I wouldn't say buying with gusto, Niraj, but definitely a positive outlook and some real winners.
Yeah. And some real winners on the show today at NDTV Profit as well, because frankly, if you just look at what the markets have done, it's great to get in some of the best voices. And aside of our guests, Aditya Agarwal and G. Chokhalingam, remember it's a battery of voices that you will hear on India Market Close today, from a Rhythm Desai to a Vallabh Bansali, to Anish Shah and Sridhar Shivram. It's a packed house that we have today, and all those voices exclusively on NDTV Profit. But let's focus on the now first before we talk about the slightly medium term and talk about what the charts might be indicating. Aditya Agarwala of Invest4EDU here to talk about that. G. Chokhalingam of Economics Research also to talk about the fundamentals. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining in, both of you. Aditya, let's start off with you. Yesterday, bit of indecision. Today, while we started off flattish, we about 0.3, 0.4% higher. Doing okay, I thought. Banks, IT, everything looking okay. How do you trade the markets if you are trading the indices?
Good afternoon, Niraj. Good afternoon, Tamanna. Thanks for coming on the show. I think it's more of a consolidation that we'll see, Niraj. I wouldn't read too much into yesterday's decline and today's up move because I think after the pullback that we've seen, markets need to spend some time in that consolidation phase. More like a time-wise correction, I would say, or just a sideways consolidation phase. So 23,400, 450 on the upside, I think will continue to act as a hurdle. I don't see that crossing immediately. Maybe tomorrow also we might just see a very narrow range on the index. And on the downside, 23,000 to about 23,100 is the key support area for the Nifty. So I would just say maybe you can avoid trading the index for a day or two, or maybe this week. Same holds true for the bank Nifty as well. So it's locked in a very narrow range between 49,000 on the downside, about 50,000 on the upside, not able to cross 50,000 decisively, and it's not breaking 49,000 either on the downside. So both the indices, the Nifty and the bank Nifty, are locked in a range. What is worrisome for me is the fact that the broader markets are looking like they're sitting on the overbought territory at the moment. So I need to be a little watchful there, especially on the mid cap and the small cap end. You have to be very stock specific and very sector specific, because we've seen a massive rally follow through the verdict that we've seen after fourth. We had a sharp correction and then we had a massive rally in a lot of the stocks. So some of them are sitting at overbought levels. So you need to be a little careful and a little watchful. Stick to stock specifics and sector specific where you see good buying action.
G. Chokhalingam also with us. Good afternoon, Chokha. Great to have you on the show. I'm going to get your view on some of the winners that we mentioned in the opening setup for the show this afternoon. And we talked about railway stocks. We talked about housing finance play. Anything over here that strikes you as interesting, constructive, and with a longer sort of runway?
Yeah, I would rather bank on the second category, because ultimately the interest rate cycle has to reverse. And therefore, one can look at a stock like PNB Housing in the housing finance. That looks still more attractive. As far as railway defense stocks are concerned, I think they already played out in the current regime of the government. I think different new themes would play out. That is a challenge for people like us to find out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but those some of it's interesting how themes are coming up thick and fast, and in some cases people are buying at the mention of something happening there. Aditya, maybe a word on some of those stocks and also your stock recommendations for the afternoon.
So I can talk on the railway, Niraj. So honestly, to be speaking, last week we didn't see any kind of a movement in the railway stocks, because maybe everybody was waiting for a clarity on who's getting the railway ministry. After the news flow that it's a continuation of the same minister, we're seeing that kind of a rally on the railway stocks. I still feel there are pockets within the railway stocks which can continue to outperform. It's not a blanket buy anymore now. So maybe a name like Texmaco Rail looks interesting to me on the chart setup. One can go ahead and look at fresh entry here. You can see a target of about 230 to about 240 on the upside. IRCTC is also looking quite interesting to me, even though it is up significantly in trade today. I think there is still some upside left. So 1150 to 1200 is what I'm eyeing on IRCTC. And maybe an Ircon International. That too looks interesting to me. So maybe these three stocks do stand out for me within the railway pack, and you can see an up move in these three railway stocks. Be a little selective, be cautious because, as I mentioned, you can have bouts of profit taking as well. Now, talking about buy recommendations, I've got two buy recommendations. One is from the FMCG space because that clearly looks like it's going to provide some kind of a support to the market needed. So Britannia is looking interesting to me. For a target of 57.50, I'll go long with a stop loss at 5500 on the downside. Second stock recommendation is Sun TV. This is again maybe because of the return of the power in the south. Stock is buzzing around, but then it had a bit of a cool off a couple of days back, and now it's coming back into action. I feel that this has a lot of upside left still. So on the upside, 800 is looking quite interesting to me. That would be the target, and on the downside, 720 will be a stop loss.
So Sun TV back in focus. I don't know what the trigger could be because yes, the DMK did well as expected in Tamil Nadu in the elections. But remember, today the big story is also all about the mantris taking charge, and we'll run up some of those visuals for you. We'll run some of those bites for you as well. So important ministries have been allocated. We had that allocation yesterday. The ministers all took charge and have spoken what their plans are for all that time coming ahead. The big focus, of course, being that there is continuity, policy continuity in terms of the key ministries being allocated to the same minister. So you have a continuation and action plan, in a sense, between term 2 and term 3 of the NDA. In fact, I don't know if you can play some of those sound bites for all of you and, get you a sense of what the ministers were saying. So let's see if we can play out what Jyotiraditya Scindia has said, what Hardeep Puri has said. And Niraj, I thought the Hardeep Puri statement was very interesting, where, he talked about how well PSUs were doing in his space. That's your HPCL, BPCL, ONGC, all of that. And he reiterated something which right now is not even on the block. But he talked about why would I want to privatize or reduce stake in any of these companies that have become so valuable and the market sees as so valuable.
Yeah, in some sense, it's so similar to what PM Modi told Sanjay Pugalia in the interaction as well. That आप देखो तो सही, ये values कितनी बढ़ गई हैं. So maybe privatization is not on the agenda, and as Ridham Desai said, maybe selling of assets as opposed to selling of stakes in companies could be the piece that one should watch out for.
Absolutely. Let's listen into what some of those ministers have said today.
प्रधानमंत्री जी के द्वारा संचार विभाग की जिम्मेदारी मुझे दी गई है, जहां एक तरफ दूरसंचार की प्राथमिकता है विश्व में, वहीं डाक विभाग की भी प्राथमिकता विश्व में और सबसे ज्यादा महत्वपूर्णता हमारे देश में। संचार विभाग के ये दोनों अंग देश की जनता को दिल से दिल जोड़ने का कार्य करती हैं, और पिछले 10 वर्षों में जो एक क्रांति इस विभाग में प्रधानमंत्री जी के नेतृत्व में लाई गई है, मैं अपना सौभाग्य मानता हूं कि एक मौका मुझे दिया गया है उस क्रांति को आगे ले जाने के लिए।
Oil production from the 98/2 well will increase to 45,000 barrels per day very soon, and gas production will also start soon. From the western offshore, ONGC has already floated a tender to get an international technology partner. All international oil and gas majors having an annual revenue above $75 billion have been invited to participate in the international tender.
All right, so you heard from two of those ministers. Of course, a whole host of them have spoken today as well. But I just want to get a view from Aditya and Chokha as well on, this whole pack. You're seeing the PSU index also up today. It's not just an ONGC, which is completely, having a great day, but SJV and the whole set of stocks, and we should pull up the internals of the PSE index as well to give you a sense of what is doing well. But Choka, any of these that you think are worth buying right now after all of the run-up?
Yeah, still some scope is there for oil and gas related, particularly stocks like ONGC, GAIL India, IOC. I think once again, this kind of stock which had a very poor single-digit PE of late got re-rated, but there is a scope for further re-rating in the another regime of Modi ji. So therefore, some of these stocks the investors can consider.
What about you, Aditya? Any of these stocks that are on your radar from the entire basket?
I'll be very selective, Tamanna. Like I mentioned, IRCTC is one which definitely looks interesting to me on the chart setup. So I look at that one. Oil India is also looking good to me for a target of 700, 710. I will look to go long. Apart from this, if I can mention city gas distribution stocks, they are looking quite interesting to me. The chart setup is very interesting. I think all three stocks, IGL, MGL, and Gujarat Gas, seems like all three stocks can see a decent upside from here on. Mind you, all these stocks have been underperforming while the rest of the entire pack has been going up in the name of energy. But somehow all city gas distribution stocks have been underperforming. So if I have to pick one, maybe a Gujarat Gas is looking very interesting to me for a target of 650 on the upside. I think so. This stock should be on your radar, and traders can actually look at it, maybe adding it from a medium to short term perspective.
Okay, well, beyond this, I think the stock of the day has to be Hindustan Construction Company after Elara Capital initiated the note. Anushi is here to give us the key features or the key reasons why Elara is constructed there. Anushi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Niraj. So Hindustan Construction Company is definitely in focus. The stock has gained over 14% in trade today. This is after Elara Capital has initiated a buy call on this with a target price set at about 63, which showcases about a 65% of an upside compared to its yesterday's close. Now, a couple of strong reasons they've cited. One is it believes that it is poised to reclaim its last glory. So in the last 10 years, if we see, it has been in a slog. So from here on, the focus shift to the improvement in its financial health going forward. Again, this is after the debt restructuring, the dispute settlement, and the monetization of its non-core assets, which have taken place, with now the company ready for the large infrastructure opportunity going forward. Apart from that, on the capacity side, 26% of hydropower capacity and 60% of share in its India's nuclear power, which, if you have to look at its position, about 1.5 trillion of a nuclear opportunity going forward. So strong hand over here. On the other side also, if we look at the debt burden has also started to come down according to Elara. Now this is another plus for the company going forward. So with this, they expect a standalone revenue and EBITDA CAGR growth of about 20% in the between the fiscal FY24 to 27, and with an earnings CAGR growth of around 50%. Now on the valuation trigger, there is also the target inflows of about 100 billion rupees in FY25, along with the consolidated net worth expected to turn positive from FY26 onwards. And the company entering a high growth phase in its core businesses from FY27. But on the key risk side, any inability to bag order inflows due to the increasing competition remains on a watch out, while the delay in recovery of its arbitration awards can also derail its repayment obligations going forward. So these are the key reasons that they have given out, and they have cited out 65% upside going forward, and which is why the stock is buzzing in trade today.
Yep, and HCC's Ajit Gulabchand. Anushi, thanks for that. And Ajit Gulabchand says that the return of BJP's kingpin for the third time will bring policy stability, which is important cornerstone for India's growth. Listen in.
Continuity on one side and the ability to build on what the Prime Minister wants done better. And I think therefore we can expect better policy decisions that will improve the environment in which business happens by being able to enhance the investment possibilities, because the environment for investment has to come. There are many reforms yet to be made, and I think with the goal of prosperity by 47, I think we have a very sound. The stability of the government is there. Now they have to do these new things, and I'm sure they will.
Yep, a lot of people believe so, and in fact, on the other side of the break, we'll make you hear some marquee voices as they spoke to NDTV Profit through the day. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Back with India Market Close right here on NDTV Profit. An opinion from a top voice. We spoke to FICCI President Anish Shah on what India Inc. expects from Modi 3.0. Listen in.
At FICCI, we've been working a lot with our members and sharing their thoughts with the government. A lot has happened over the past few years, and the focus that the government has had in the past few years on long-term growth and therefore on capex, which is a greater multiplier effect, has started to see fruit. Now, it does take some time for that to happen. At this stage, we would want, as an industry, more of the same. In fact, maybe ramped up a little more. What we would ideally like is in 4 key areas. First is in manufacturing, make in India for the world. How do we create lower cost for manufacturing, make it easier to do business than it is today, and position India as a high quality nation? That is going to help us make in India for the world. The second is around women-led development, women in manufacturing, many other initiatives to get women into the labor force, and really position equality as a key focus area for us. Third is around farm prosperity. It's on the value chains from farm to fork, increasing efficiency at farms, enhancing farm productivity, and thereby being able to do more with less. And finally, around sustainability, around water positive as a country, building sustainable urban cities, and playing a key role in the green transition from a climate change standpoint. These are the key areas of focus that as FICCI, we would want a lot more as we go forward. As I said, a lot has been done, and therefore just continuing that path would be a very positive one for us.
Okay. There's a lot. Okay. So that's, of course, M&M's Anish Shah. We spoke to some other market experts as well on themes that they were watching out for and more. Hear out Sridhar Shivram as well as Rhythm Desai.
Wind capacity is roughly 45 gigawatts. We'll roughly double in the next 4-5 years. Our solar is around 70-75 gigawatts. We'll triple in the next 4-5 years. Our thermal is around 220 gigawatts. We'll add about 40-50 gigawatts here in the next 4-5 years. All this is substantial.
Yes.
And all of this will require power evacuation. You need T&D. You'll need, wires. You'll need transformers. So I think the entire ecosystem will do well. It's left to individuals to figure out what they want to play. I think the entire ecosystem has a lot of opportunity from here on if these numbers were to play out. And looks like they will, based on the commitment that the government has, based on the commitment that private sector is showing.
The key infrastructure sector that I would be constructive on is railways.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the heavy lifting is now going to happen. The endeavor is to lower India's logistics cost maybe by 30-40% over the next 5 years. And therefore, the happy news here is that we have continuity in the railways because the outgoing minister and the incoming minister has already done a lot of work in the last 3 years. We wrote extensively about this about 6 weeks ago, about all the changes, and it's dramatic. I remember we had written a report in 2015. The average speed of a cargo train in India then was 20 kilometers an hour. You could cycle faster. Okay.
Yeah.
We've already come a long way from there. Okay. Now that speed has doubled, it will double again. So if the cargo, now think about the macro and the micro implications. If cargo on the trains is moving faster, it becomes cheaper to transport goods point to A to point B. Importantly, the inventory in the system goes down. Okay. So balance sheets become better. This is about ICOR. You need less capital to grow your business. So the implications in the next 4-5 years will unfold and surprise us on to the upside.
Well, so effectively, logistics, you think of what logistic players might do, but if there is no clarity on what logistics stock fit out, I think you need to look at maybe suppliers of infrastructure building if indeed that is the big theme that people are thinking about. Mr. Chokalingam, just one quick question. If you had to bet on logistics/infrastructure, what are the kind of stocks that come to mind?
Definitely, one can look at Transport Corporation of India, TCI and TCI Express. They are the very high quality stocks in logistics.
So you like TCI Express? What's the rationale? What are the numbers? Is this the only one that you like, or do you like some others as well?
A couple of I like, but recently I purchased personally, so I am not allowed to talk for 30 days. But both TCI Express and TCI look very good. Valuations are similar. Both look good.
Okay. Both TCI Express look good to Mr. Chokalingam. Okay. What we'll do is we'll try and find out the details about why so on the other side of this very quick break. Some numbers, some stock ideas from Aditya as well on some of these topics. But we need to slip into a break. Be back with more.
Welcome back. You're watching India Market Close. Just a quick look at where we're settling in for this afternoon. And, you've not had a very volatile kind of day, I would say rather range bound, but you're looking like you're going to close up in the green. Agam, in fact, is standing by to break down all the FNOQs. Agam, are you seeing any clear direction?
No, not really. And maybe this was also anticipated because now that we have dust settling, consolidation was on the cards. That's exactly what we're seeing. The Nifty moving sideways around the mark of 23,300. There hasn't been as much traction when it comes to futures, about 3% added in open interest. But moving down to the Bank Nifty, and again, we do have a little bit of a divergence, a little bit of an underperformance from the banks. And still, we have about 5% added in open interest there as well. Of course, we are looking at the options market where there has been a little bit more writing in puts as compared to calls, naturally perhaps because Nifty continues to sustain above the mark of 23,000 at the moment. And speaking of 23,000, we have more and more writing around that particular put strike and a little bit more writing coming through on 23,100 and 23,200 puts as well. On the higher end, we continue to see traction around the 23,500 call, and it's roughly a 500-point range within which we're expecting the Nifty to move within over the course of the next 2 to 3 days. Well, moving on as far as stocks go, again, keeping an eye on something like a GMR Airport or Sun TV, advancing and going longs out there. Hindustan Copper, on the other hand, is now looking at a decline of around 1.5%. There are some shorts being added there. And of course, among stocks which are seeing unwinding, we have L&T Tech, BHEL, along with Cummins, as well as Canara Bank, all of them looking at short covering. Again, a fairly evenly poised day. Consolidation continues. The question really is, how long does this take through before we actually start seeing direction. But that's a wait and watch on that one.
Absolutely. So not a very clear direction or picture turning out from the F&O side of things. But let me come to G. Choka on that sort of big picture question. Where now from here do we go? What become the next big triggers, Choka? Because it's seeming like a bit of an anticlimax at the end of it. We've had so much of volatility, suspense, etc. Now you have a situation which is all done, right? You have the government which has come in, ministers sworn in, their ministries allocated, and so it's back to business. What becomes the next big trigger for the market?
I think the trigger would be the formation of this government itself. All key people again retained, particularly finance ministry, because if you see the last 5 years, whether you take the twin balance of BOP or fiscal, there has been a tremendous improvement and 7% growth. CAD, current account balance becoming even surplus. So I believe that there is nothing to worry about, the government not having majority on its own. Because if you see the past experience also, when we had minority governments, the stock market hit the record highs. Yes, there will be volatility based on the news flows possible from the alliance partners, but that could be an opportunity. I give my neck out and say that in the next 4 years, our market cap will breach $8 trillion from $5 trillion now. Yes, a lot of things have already played out, but in the next 1-2 years, I think particularly the EV theme and followed by bottom-up approach in the small and mid-cap stock, that is where one can make a lot of wealth in the next 2 to 4 years.
So that is somehow the big picture on the EV theme. Just taking that to you, Aditya, what are you seeing interesting in the EV theme? I'm looking at an Uno Minda today. I'm looking at a Varroc. All of them are doing, interesting, showing some good moves. Anything that is on your sort of radar?
Most of them have been played out, Tamanna, to be honest. There's nothing that is looking very interesting to me, which can offer a very good risk to reward. Here and there, yes, there can be a pop, like a Varroc Engineering looks like there could be a continuation of the up move that we are seeing today from the entire gamut of stocks that are there. For a target of maybe 750, 780 on the upside, this is something that can be played out. On the flip side, what is looking interesting is the entire ancillary space for housing. Look at stock like a Greenply, look at Kajaria, look at Cera, look at Somani. All these stocks are suddenly showing some kind of a buying interest and a bottoming out kind of a formation in most of these stocks. So if I talk about Cera Sanitary, I think so it offers a good risk to reward at current levels and something that has been in a consolidation phase for long. So for a target of 8,000, 8,500, I would be a buyer here. Look at a name like a Kajaria. That is also looking very interesting to me. Though it's up some 4% in trade today, on the verge of a breakup from its 200 DMA. I think it will do so in the next few trading sessions. 1430, 1450 should be seen. And the final Greenply, I think so that is also looking very interesting to me. So one can definitely stay invested in Greenply if looking at a fresh entry. That also we can do for a target of 350 on the upside.
That's a interesting theme sort of play that you can have on the whole housing boom. Though, of course, what you're seeing today is because of the Yojana, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, which is the plan to build housing and give a boost to housing. You've seen real estate stocks also do well as a result of that overall focus on infra building. But another stock which is in focus today is definitely Tata Motors. And let's pull up the details of that story. Puneet is joining us for more on that. The company has said that now it has zero debt. Puneet, give us more details.
Yeah, well, apart from that, there are other 4 details. So, like top 5 takeaways from the investor day. First one is definitely that the India entity has become net debt free. Now, this has been going on for a while. The company has been updating the investors as well. And now, finally, that has happened that they have got into positive free cash flow as well. Historically, the company has been, bogged down by high debt as well as high interest costs. And that's finally, post-COVID, we have seen that momentum change for the company for the better as well. Now, they have, guided that JLR also is on track for getting net debt positive by the next fiscal year. So maybe by the end of financial year 25 or the start of FY26 as well. The second key thing is on investments. Now this is key because they have been saying they have shown that investments have gone up by roughly 4 times to 8,000 crores now for the fiscal year 2024. And in the meantime, debt has come down from roughly 16,000 crores in FY21 to being net free at the end of fiscal year 24. So that's a key positive as well. The third thing is on financial growth. We've seen revenue rise from roughly 25,000 crores at the end of financial year 21 all the way up to 43,000 crores for financial year 24, and that's what the presentation has highlighted as well. This is on back of strong EBIT margins as well, which has crossed 8% for the first time over the last 6 to 7 years. ROAS has also been very strong, coming in at 18% for the last fiscal year. The fourth point is on the electrification as well as the passenger vehicle. Both these divisions have done well. Now the company's total market share in PVs is roughly 13.9%. That's the number 3 player. But the share of CNG has doubled to 16%. Now do note Maruti is also increasing their share of CNG, so this is a key positive. EV share in total sales have gone up to 13% from 9%, taking the overall from to 29% from cleaner fuels. They have sold roughly 1.8 lakh EVs since the start of financial year 2020 and now have 70% market share in all EVs sold in India. I also want to just finally highlight on what are the next steps. There are multiple measures to unlocking what's happening in the EV theme. They have, given stake to TPG in the electrification unit. They also successfully divested the stake in Tata Technologies, which got 1,600 crores for them. And finally, the much awaited demerger of commercial vehicle as well as the passenger vehicle. So overall, really positive momentum for Tata Motors going into the next fiscal year. We'll see how it performs going forward. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Puneet. Certainly watch out for the takeaways from there, and tomorrow what comes out also will be interesting. Mr. Chokalingam, do you like four-wheelers in general and Tata Motors in particular at the current valuations? Why or why not?
I prefer Maruti to Tata Motors at current prices because there is a clarity for me on Maruti. In terms of SUV consistently increasing the market share and capacity expansion. Whereas in Tata Motor, still though it has done well, there's always a little uncertainty about the commercial vehicle, and also the global business keep fluctuating its performance. So therefore, I prefer Maruti to Tata Motor at current prices.
Aditya, what about you? Are you a Tata Motor fan?
I was when nobody was, Tamanna, but now I don't think so. It is an interesting bet at the moment. An upside is there, maybe 1,050 can be played out in Tata Motors. I would prefer looking at some of the two-wheeler names, though they look interesting to me, like a Hero Motor or an Eicher Motor. I think so. These are some of the names which are looking interesting to me. And one stock which nobody talks about is Atul Auto. This is one stock which hasn't performed yet. But I think so. This is going to give you a very good opportunity. The risk to reward is in favor of going long at the moment. And when nobody's talking about it, I think so it's the best time to look at that stock again. So 500 could be a stop loss here and look for a target of 690 to about 700 on the upside. That's a big upside that I'm getting on Atul Auto.
Yeah, Atul Auto has always been a darling of the street, but Atul Auto once again on Aditya Agarwala's radar at least. But we've had a day of very, very interesting conversations, and as the market settles in following the formation of the NDA government, Morgan Stanley's Rhythm Desai believes domestic inflows will continue to remain robust. Listen in.
Now see, in the market, and I say this and I get tired of saying this, there are only two cohorts, right? There are domestics and there are foreigners. If you look at last month's clip, they were putting about $200 million a day into the market. So imagine if domestic funds decide that they don't want to buy for 5 days. It's $1 billion now to invest. You don't do for 2 weeks and you have $2 billion, right? It's a lot of money. And therefore, they have to come every day to buy stocks. Somebody has to sell. So foreigners are selling. Yeah. Now this will change when the corporate issuers is in the game. So once primary issuances pick up, and therefore you now have the third cohort in the market and a fresh seller, you will find, ironically, the foreigner will come to buy. So if you ask me for a prediction, next 6 months, foreigners are going to buy India.
Okay, and if that happens, can banks do well is the question, because I think that is the key thing. Let's wait and watch. By the way, Dredging Corporation is up and about in the session, up about 10%, because they've gotten an order worth 2,016 crores for 5 years from Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Port Authority. That's a big one. 2,000 crores is a large order, and it's certainly showing in the way Dredging Corp is moving up. Mr. Chokalingam, since this is 10% upper circuit, no point asking Aditya about this. But Mr. Chokalingam, what about Dredging Corp fundamentally? Is there merit in investing in this?
No, of late they have lost market share to foreign players. But still, in case it comes out of the circuit and comes down, one can consider because of this order, and also the fact that Adani port is growing in a big way, and also other ports are growing. There will be a lot of opportunity for dredging, both the capital dredging and the service dredging. So therefore, in case it comes out and a small correction is there, one can use that opportunity to accumulate.
Okay. Well, that's Dredging Corp, but 10% higher. And we spoke about PSUs at the start of the trading day. I think this is one more which is doing well, while a few others are not. Actually, from amongst the stocks which are not doing well, Aditya, today some of those Andhra Pradesh stocks are taking a bit of a breather, right? There is KCP down, Ramco is down, Heritage Foods is down. What do the charts suggest for some of these?
Niraj, maybe the only stock which I would be interested in buying is the Ramco Cements. The rest of the two stocks, Heritage and KCP, I think so there is some more downside in both of these stocks. So Ramco could be one that I'll watch out for. And I'll look to add the stock maybe tomorrow, see how the stock opens, and if it sustains above this hurdle of 865, 870, then I would be a buyer in the stock for a target of 900 to 950. Otherwise, I have better bets. I would like to stick to them.
What are those?
Few I mentioned, Niraj, one stock that I would like to talk about now maybe is a UPL, something which I always keep a radar on. And this has been one stock which has underperformed big time. I think tides are turning for UPL. One should look at the stock. It's trading above its 200 DMA finally after, I think, more than a year now. It's formed a base, breaking out on monthly time frame also. It's looking very interesting. I have a target of 650 on the stock. Maybe with a stop loss at 520, one should definitely look at adding this stock in your portfolio for a medium to longer term time frame, I would say.
Just want to put a focus on gas stocks and just seeing the statement from Hardeep Puri, who's taken charge of the ministry of the Oil and Gas Ministry. This is, of course, a continuation of what he was doing in the second term as well. And he says that we will be trying to bring gas under GST. And this is something that the market was looking at very, very closely as well. So we should see some of those gas stocks and see where they're moving. We'll just pull up GAIL as well. That entire pack is doing, showing some smart moves on an otherwise tepid kind of a day. ONGC, of course, being the winner there. Choka, do you like any of the gas stocks?
Yeah, certainly GAIL looks good, because not only because of gas, there's a lot of expansion in the petrochemical. All this would play out in the next 1-2 years. So definitely GAIL looks good among gas stocks.
GAIL is looking good. Vodafone is the other one that is showing an up move after languishing in the first half of the day. Look at the intraday of Vodafone. An interesting story over there playing out on those charts. Vodafone, which was really not having a good morning at all, is now about 2.5% up. Remember, there is a news point, so to speak. They're going to have a board meet and decide on raising funds. This is by giving vendors equity, etc. on June 13th. Aditya, do you look at Vodafone with any kind of a positive view at 16.19 its current price?
I think one can take an exposure here, especially people who don't have weak hearts and are okay taking that kind of a risk. I think so people can look at Vodafone Idea. With the stop close to about 14.5, I would like to stick my neck out and be a buyer here for a target of maybe 18.5 first, and if that is taken out, 20 will be my next target. I'm seeing quite a lot of volume build up on days when when the stock is going up. So that tells me that maybe smart money is getting in, people are buying the stock. I would like to be a buyer here, yes.
But not for the faint-hearted. I thought that was an interesting take on Vodafone. Choka, would you say that it's worth a short-term sort of an outlook?
Short-term, medium-term, long-term, I am negative on Vodafone. Unless the stakeholders decide to write off the debt or government decide to write off all the arrears, there is no future. I mean, that's quite possible that the stakeholder might help. Otherwise, there is no possibility because, the equity is so big, it's going to be bigger than the annual sales very soon. And I don't think at the current level of debt and the equity size, it can make earning to substantiate the current market price. So I would not take a risk. It's a very high risk taking people who bank on the possibility of some sacrifice from the stakeholder. Otherwise, fundamentally, it's not a hold, it's not a buy.
Okay, but it's certainly revving up. And in line with Bharti, remember the last few days, Bharti Airtel too has had a decent move. On Friday, it was up about 4%, though in today's session, Bharti at 1426, the last 2 days, despite that brokerage uptick that came in, hasn't quite really caught on post that Friday move. It was up 4% Friday, then it's been consolidating. Aditya, I wondered if Bharti, this consolidation for the last 2-3 days provides an opportunity, or would you bet on other stocks?
I would not go long, absolutely not on Bharti Airtel, Niraj. In fact, if I'm long and I'm sitting on profits, I would recommend one should look at least booking partial profits here, because for me, 1440, 1450 is a strict hurdle which looks difficult to breach at the moment, and sitting at overbought levels as well. I would look to short the stock rather if I see a bit of a weakness in trade tomorrow.
Okay, the stocks which corrected today on the back of block deals, and those three aside of PNC Infra are the top losers on the Nifty 500. So IRB Infra, Honasa, Interglobe Aviation. 4.5% off for Interglobe Aviation on a day when crude prices too have inched higher. So let's talk about that first. Indigo Aviation. Aditya, how do the charts look here? For somebody who doesn't have an existing trade, can she or he take a short trade?
Not really, Niraj, because immediate support is at 4,300. So I would wait how the stock behaves in trade tomorrow. If it doesn't break this support of 4,350, 4,300, I think the stock will inch back closer to about 4,500 on the upside.
Okay, Mr. Chokalingam, yesterday the fertilizer stocks were in a bit of a frenzy on this development of the PM releasing their installment, right? Today, all of them are coming off. Is there a fertilizer name that you like investing in?
No, certainly no. The water storage in major reservoir is pathetically low. Monsoon just started. Now this monsoon is very, very critical for Indian economy, market, fertilizer stocks. And also let us not forget that fact that the government has taken a lot of initiatives on nano fertilizer, which is going to be terribly negative for fertilizer companies in India. So I would not like to recommend any fertilizer stock at this juncture.
Okay, let's stay away from fertilizer, says Choka. Just NBCC, I wanted to bring focus on NBCC. We talked about how it's a winner today because of perhaps the rail buzz, etc. But it has also got a whole host of orders worth 878 crores, in fact. And there are quite a few orders, not just the one. But NBCC is showing the kind of boom over there. I'll take you through some of those details. There's one for the Kochi Metro Rail Service, that's 700 crores. They're building a college for Hindu College University of Delhi, ICSI building, and something for Oil India as well. So in Assam. So a whole host of orders coming in for NBCC. So solid company. Again, if you're looking at PSUs, this would be a good pick, Choka?
I'm sorry, I have not looked at the results recently, so I'm not able to comment on it.
Okay, okay. What about you, Aditya? You have a view on NBCC?
It's an interesting pick, Tamanna, and I would like to bet on the stock. I think easily it can test levels of 176, which was its previous peak. And if that is taken out, maybe 185 is also on cards. And on the downside, 150 is a good support area. So yes, if somebody is looking to go long, even at current levels after 9.5% up move, one can definitely look at adding the stock in your portfolio.
Okay. Adding the stock in the portfolio as per the charts, but fundamentally, Mr. Chokalingam, not quite sure of that. Actually, it's 320, so let's get in the closing strategy going. Maybe you already gave one, Aditya, but if amongst all the stocks that we've spoken about, or maybe a fresh one popping on your screen, if you had to bet on one stock as a BTST or STBT, which one would that be?
A couple of them, Niraj, and both of them are spoken about. Sun TV will be on my radar for sure, because it's a very strong close that I'm seeing on the stocks on the chart. And second will be a UPL. I'm quite bullish on the stock, and I think immediate if one wants to do a BTST as well, then in that case target will be 570. And for long term, as I mentioned, if somebody holds 650 will be your target.
Okay. Yep. It's interesting. Yesterday, some of the agrarian stocks had a good day. In today's session, not quite. A lot of them have actually come off. Like I said, fertilizers and some of the others too have just come off in the session today. So not the best of days for them, you have to admit. Was done really well. Himachal Futuristic up about 9.5%. Railtel has had a decent day. Keynes Technologies. Now, Mr. Chokalingam, come in on Keynes Tech. Yes, they've got a slew of positive news flow behind it, but the stock trades at 130 times trailing 12 months. That is expensive. Would you buy it or do you invest in it now?
I would not, but all over the world, value investing is not performing the way it used to perform. So those who are lucky to hold, they may hold on and see as long as the momentum keeps playing out, one can hold and then one can book profits.
Okay, well, that's the view on some. Before we start wrapping up the market, let's also hear out Inamdar's Vallabh Bansali, who talks about what exactly is making him bullish on India.
All these, for example, what wealth got created between the COVID dips and now is also phenomenal. And which shows that when there is misunderstanding, when there is extreme fear, when you are able to catch that market bottom for that point of time, that really provides the best opportunity. It is not a period or something. So when the new government came in 2004 and people thought market tanked and market went into a circuit filter, etc., that provided the opportunity. The low prices that create the great opportunity. Look for low prices. Investors' best friend is those low prices when people are very scared. Just now we don't have scared markets. We have quite bullish markets.
All right. Union Bank in focus. The board has approved raising 10,000 crore rupees. And let's just pull up the Union Bank intraday as well. Slightly, actually completely flat right now. Union Bank of India. So they're going to raise 6,000 crore rupees via FPO and all rights issues, and raising another 4,000 crore rupee via bonds. So, even as we've been talking about, PSU banks have not been doing too much in the last few days at least. But I was wondering, Choka, how you feel about Union Bank?
One can hold on because the banking credit growth is expected to remain still robust at 14%. And Union Bank also corrected quite significantly from the recent peak. And it also trades around 1.5 times price to adjusted book value. And most of these stocks can improve their valuation multiple even close to 2 times. So therefore, one can hold on to Union Bank.
And Aditya, what about you?
Not an interesting one, Tamanna. I'll look at it maybe tomorrow. If it opens above 151, trades above 151, then I would be interested. Not at current levels.
Okay. Any of the PSUs you like that you find more interesting than Union Bank, which clearly you don't find interesting at all?
Most of them, I think, will go through a consolidation phase. Maybe a SBI is the only one which one can look at. On the upside, 900 can be tested. But again, it will take some time. Not like you buy today and a couple of days' time, you will see an immediate up move. Gradual up move on SBI is what I think you will see coming forward.
All right, so SBI is a gradual kind of move. Now, as we wrap up, let's just take a look at what is really working in the markets and pull up, the Nifty as well. I'm keen to see what the Nifty heat map is looking like at this point, and we'll start wrapping up in a couple of minutes. But you have gone completely flat now. Some of those gains which you were seeing have been lost over the last, I think, 20-25 minutes or so. This is just on the charts for the Nifty, and I know we took a call from you at the start of the show, but on Nifty and Bank Nifty, do you see this sort of downward trend continuing for the next session at least?
There could be a bit of a cool off, Tamanna. 23,000 on the downside for Nifty and maybe a 49,000 on the Bank Nifty. You can see those levels. 2 to 50 point correction on Nifty cannot be ruled out. And like I mentioned, I don't see markets in a hurry cross those hurdles of 23,400, 450 on the upside.
Yeah, so that's the call on the Nifty, definitely. But, in terms of what has been working in the markets today, and we've talked about a host of stocks, but I saw the big loser today, Divi's and Dr. Reddy's, both of them really hurting. Aditya, do you have a sort of contrarian view here on any of these counters?
Definitely, Tamanna. In fact, I think if you're looking to get into a pharma space, both the names are very attractive. And today, you're getting that right kind of opportunity to go long in both the names, be it a Divi's Lab or a Dr. Reddy. And even tomorrow, if you get a bit of a cool off in Divi's Lab, I think so it's an excellent opportunity to go long. Matter of time before we see stock trade close to about 5,000, 5,400 on the upside. Talking about Dr. Reddy's too, I think 6,400 is on cards as far as Dr. Reddy's is concerned. So both the stocks, I think they're providing an excellent opportunity today on that dip to add the stock if you're looking to go long on both these stocks.
Okay. Mr. Chokalingam, before we wrap up, fundamentally, what is your favorite stock recommendation currently? Take your time and please give us the reasons as to why should someone look at this stock.
One stock I can recommend, which is Sterling Tools. It's a play on EV thing. It has got 100% subsidiary engaged in motor control units which are used by electric vehicles. It has been doing phenomenally well in the last 3 years, this EV subsidiary. And in Sterling Tools, Japanese collaborator also has some stake in the company, which adds to a lot of value. And in the fastener business, which is a traditional business, Sterling Tools has already invested a lot of money. Now they are talking about improvement in the productivity and profitability. So I believe this is the one stock most dependable in the small cap space for the next 1 to 3 years. It can create a lot of wealth. Personally, we do not hold, but we have recommended very strongly.
What is the earnings growth that you forecast here, Mr. Chokalingam?
Definitely, there will be at least 20% of profit growth for next 2 to 3 years consistently. They are also getting into magnetic, another component used in electric vehicles in collaboration with Korean technology partner. So all this would play out in the next 2 to 3 years in a very big way.
Okay, well, watch out for that. Watch out for some trading ideas. Gentlemen, both of you, thanks for joining and giving us that perspective. Very quickly, let's pull up the heat map up on the screen as we wrap up the markets because and get the Nifty view as well. Well, flat as flat can be, as some commentator says, flat as a pancake. But even Stevens on the red and the green, ONGC, L&T, Adani Ports, that's essentially been the nature of the stocks. But you see a bit of a trend happening in that auto is doing well. Maruti, Tata Motors, Bajaj Auto, Hero Moto and M&M, all 5 in the top 10 list. What's not done well? Reliance is sulking, some banks are sulking because Kotak Bank as well as ICICI Bank in the red, and Pharma has had a bit of a dull day today because from a Divi's to a Dr. Reddy's to a Sun Pharma, all of these have looked wobbly in the session. Tamanna, what about the mid-caps?
The mid-caps also not doing too well, Niraj. In fact, let's pull up and see where they're closing. And relatively, of course, to the flat pancake / dosa, the Nifty mid-cap 100, okay. Small cap and micro caps actually doing fairly well. Small cap about 0.5% up, but I want to pull up the micro cap index, which at least some time ago had a decent sort of a play. I'm talking about the Nifty microcap. Yeah, so that's about 1.5% up. So that's where all the action is. And we should pull up the advanced decline because that's perhaps what you will see as well. So the advanced decline ratio is positive. You're not seeing that on the Nifty because all the action is in the broader end of the markets and that too in the microcap. So that's where the entire story is. There are pockets of enthusiasm today. I would count the housing finance stocks in that bucket, the rail stocks, but we'll go through the housing finance stocks once. NBCC, Aadhar cooling off, but NBCC, the complete champion as far as the rail construction kind of a play goes. Jupiter doing very well today, Railtel doing very well today. So you had these kind of companies, and I would add a Hutco on the positive side as far as your housing finance play goes. That's also still about 5% up. So those are some of the pockets where you've seen a lot of enthusiasm. And HCC, just 1 second to talk about HCC today. I mean, when it rains, it pours. For Ajit Gulabchand, it's a hailstorm. 19% up.
Very strong move.
Yeah, a hugely strong move after a long time of really not much action on that stock. Yeah,
but a lot of action in the markets, and this continues tomorrow. So for now, from Tamanna and me and the team that put this show together, thanks so much for watching.